Should you outsource your demand generation program to an agency or should you do it in house? Kevin and I are going to provide some advice around this topic as people who do help do this on behalf of companies and have performed that agency function and have also helped them develop it in house. So, we're going to draw on all our experience and life lessons to share with you when the right time is to include an agency and what you need to get done in-house first. Welcome to the B2B Playbook. We built this channel for small B2B marketing teams who want to drive more revenue for their business. Every week, we're showing you how to create more demand for your brand step by step using our 5Bs framework. So if you're time poor, resource strapped, but you still want to make a big impact on your business, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below so you don't miss an episode. Welcome back to the B2B Playbook. Today, listeners, we're discussing the question of should you outsource your demand generation program to an agency or should you do it in-house? Kevin and I are going to provide some advice around this topic as people who do help do this on behalf of companies and have performed that agency function and have also helped them develop it in-house. So we're going to draw on all our experience and life lessons to share with you when the right time is to include an agency and what you need to get done in-house first. Kevin, before we jump into that, could you please give the listeners a little bit more context on what our 5Bs framework is all about and just a quick overview of what they are?
Yeah, definitely, George. So our 5Bs framework consists of be ready, be helpful, be seen, be better, and be the best. Be ready, we talk about deeply understanding your customers, in particular your dream customers. Then in be helpful, we talk about how to develop relationships of trust with them, particularly online, with that information you've gotten in the be ready part of your process. And then in be seen, we talk about how to amplify that helpful content and to focus in on those dream customers with your marketing efforts. In Be Better, we talk about how to optimize that B2B marketing process that you've built up until that point. And finally, in Be the Best, we talk about some of the advanced strategies and tactics that the guys at the bigger end of town use and how you can apply it into your own marketing as well, and how to make this whole thing a flywheel so it continues to deliver value for your B2B marketing.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a great overview of our own demand generation framework, the 5Bs. And again, listeners, the context of today is we're discussing when is the right time to use an agency? Should you be building a demand generation program in-house or should you use external resources? And that's really what we're guiding you through today. And just some more information around this, Kevin, is you and I speak with a lot of businesses that are considering using an agency or have used an agency, and the results aren't always there for them, Kevin. What typically happens is we speak to, I think, two kind of major types of companies. One, earlier stage companies where the founder really starts to need some results fast. And they've spent so much time putting together the product and the collateral and getting that just right. And now all of a sudden they need sales and they need marketing. And that's when they go to an agency. The other situation, Kev, is there's normally an in-house marketer. They're on the at that activity hamster wheel. They're doing things like going to events, they're putting together content, they're doing a whole lot of stuff. But now all of a sudden, leadership is asking them, hey, we need more pipeline. What's going on? And that's when the in-house marketer typically looks to an external agency to lean on their expertise. And in both those situations, Kevin, it might not be the ideal time to go and partner with an agency from the beginning. I would love to get your own thoughts on when the right time is.
Yeah, George, I think for me, I'm pretty much on the same page as what you're alluding to there. It's that when you first start to turn your attention to demand generation, when you need to start ramping up that pipeline, generally we think demand generation should be started in-house. I think there's just a lot of efficiencies and access to information and things like that that makes it very difficult for an agency to start that demand generation engine very effectively or very efficiently, because there's just so much information they need to gather in that initial stage to make that demand generation process a success. So either it's investing a lot of money for someone external to have that time enough in the business to do all this stuff and to build that for you and to have that understanding of business that you would inherently have in-house, or it's better if you just start some of these steps in-house, document it, have that process started, maybe test a few things and see what's working and what's not. And then potentially as it scales past the point where your internal team can handle it, then you can potentially look to partner with an agency on specific parts of your demand generation process. Maybe it's the bit where they're running the ads for you. Maybe it's the creation of some of the assets or repurposing of content once you have a process down and you know what works and what doesn't and what resonates with your audience. Whatever that might be, we do tend to think that agencies have their place, but only a little further down the track once you've got some of those fundamentals and foundations in place.
Oh, yeah, I agree. You need to have those things in house first. Let's take a step back and just talk about what typically happens in that early stage when companies approach an agency. Now, we've worked in an agency, we've dealt with a lot of agencies, and in the B2B space, unfortunately, there are a lot that are going to promise you whatever it is that you want to hear. So normally you'll reach out because you go, you know what, we need leads. Like we need pipeline, and in order to get pipeline, we need leads. So then agencies come along and they say, we will guarantee you XYZ leads for around this CPL, and this is the investment level that you need to get there. Anyone who has been through that process knows that's just not how B2B buying works. Pretty often, what they'll do is they'll get together an ebook or some other piece of information that you have that you think is of some value to your ICP. They'll then either do outbound email, or they'll do run that on ads as gated content, capture those details, try and book some meetings if they can, which normally aren't that great a fit. And yeah, look, they constantly tell you they're optimizing and trying to improve, but the results are never there, Kevin. They are never there. And that's why they tend to have a bit of a bad reputation, Kev, because they promise the world and they don't deliver. Now, the reason that they don't deliver, I think, Kevin, for a lot of them, isn't because they're charlatans. This is no hate on agencies at all. I think the reason they can't deliver is, especially in the B2B world, you need to have so much information about the company, about the customers, in order for demand generation to truly work. Because ultimately, what we're doing, Kevin, is we're trying to convince someone that they have a problem that they need to be solved, that it should be prioritized, and leads them to the logical conclusion that you're the perfect fit for them. And it's really hard to do that as an external agency. As you said earlier, if you're going to bring in someone external to do this, they better be charging you a lot of money, because they basically need to work full time for your business to understand it well enough to go and market it.
Let's just jump in and have a look, George, at all the different things that you potentially need to have in place to really resonate and build that sense of trust and that level of trust where someone is willing to put money, put their business, put their job on the line and put money behind going with you as a business, as a supplier of a particular product or service. You need to deeply understand them, first of all, their pain points, their motivations, what really resonates with them, and what kind of pains they're actually having and what is going to draw their attention to that particular pain point. So that in itself will probably require some sort of customer interview, a customer research process that should really be face to face with a lot of your dream customers or your potential customers, as well as your dream customers who you already have. And so that alone will take a lot of expertise, a lot of time. And that automatically puts a lot of those agencies out of their depth, out of their comfort zone, and out of their cost structures to make it a viable business proposition for them to do a lot of that customer research. They're just not generally specialized in that. They will lean on you as a business to have that ready. So if you're going to an agency without having even that ready, that information to pass on to them, then the results that they're going to bring to you will automatically be a lot lower in quality. Never say never. You might have luck on your side and they might run some general activity and that might just happen to resonate with your particular audience and you're profitable from day one. Sure. But in 99% of the cases that we've seen, 99.99 even, it's just not the case. They end up having to do a lot of that testing by putting marketing dollars behind that to spray and pray and see what sticks to the wall. But you really don't need to do that if you can do that customer research upfront, if you can deeply understand your dream customer. So that's just one point. And then you need to probably talk about your customers. So whether that's testimonials, case studies, and what have you, to showcase the customers and to really talk to your customers and to feature them in your content, in your advertising, to show that actually these people already are a part of your business, are dream customers of yours, and you're servicing be able to identify those customers and to then bring them to the table in features and testimonials and things like that. Again, it's inherently something that you'll be much better placed to do in-house. Imagine an agency trying to do that. They'll be relying on someone internal in your business to do that anyways, but they're charging you maybe a monthly retainer, they're charging you fees as you go about putting this information together. So automatically, that means you're wasting marketing dollars on those agencies' fees if you don't have this information ready to go.
To come back to your point around customer interviews, Kev, and deeply understanding the customer, look, the average agencies will at least ask you if you have that information. They'll say, who are your ideal customers? What do they look like? And then you might think you have that information, and what you end up handing over to them is often based on a bunch of assumptions. So, very often, Kevin, when we speak to organizations, they think they have this information in house about who their ideal customers are, about what messages resonate with them, about why they bought them over a competitor. But when you ask how they derived that information and has it been validated with the customer, the answer is, as you dig, is always no. It's normally just based on assumptions. And so the insights that you get from conducting these customer interviews, from interacting with sales to build this process, from involving customer success within your own organization, and then making sure, Kev, that aligns with what leadership actually wants you to do and their vision for where the company is going, it's like night and day. You have to do this stuff in house. And again, just imagine how hard it would be for an agency to pull together marketing leaders, sales leaders, customer success, speak to some of your customers, make sure that's aligned with leadership. Some out there do it, and that's great, but they are going to charge you a lot of money. And that's why we always recommend trying to pull this stuff together in house first. Because if you don't understand it, if you don't truly understand why someone bought you versus a competitor, if you don't understand where they hang out online and offline and who influences their decisions and what the buying committee looks like, how can you expect an agency to go out there and work all that out for you and magically create these high intent opportunities for you? It just doesn't make sense, does it, Kev? Like, marketing is no silver bullet. There's no magic pill that you can take.
No, there definitely isn't, George. And I think it boils down to the fact that there's a big difference between pretty sure what your dream customer is and what they're about and what their pain points are, and being absolutely sure and knowing from the horse's mouth that's actually what they're finding as pain points and what they're finding as great features about your product or service. That gap is often where a lot of the trouble lies. And it's only going to get bigger if you rely on an agency too early in the process to find some of that out for you. Again, as George said, we're not saying all agencies can't do this, but the ones that can do this to a standard that is similar to someone in-house doing it is probably going to be someone that's charging an arm and a leg, in which case, presumably, it's going to be more economical to do it in-house.
That's right, Kev. And you want to find this information out for yourself in house, because if you don't understand this information in house, then how can sales be doing a great job either? We're going to help them prospect better. We're going to help them really identify who they should contact first. What are the key messages that they need to reiterate? What are the key pieces of helpful content that they can share with prospects who aren't necessarily ready to buy right now, but builds a relationship with them so they might buy from us one day? If we don't have this information in house, then we can't possibly be aligned with what sales are doing. And so I understand, Kev, there is a time where you do need an agency, and sometimes it feels like so much because you don't have the resourcing to do this. But yeah, just to reiterate your point, that you're better off trying to work some of this out in house, confirming it, and then partnering with an agency, because that does become a high priority task. I just don't think it's something that you can outsource to a magician.
No, definitely not, George. And listeners, if you think about it, when you get to that stage where you're then outsourcing and trying to speed up that flywheel, trying to speed up your pipeline, you're just going to get actually an increased need for more information around your best customers, around the quality of those leads, around what is actually going to happen. A good agency will ask those questions of you and will ask for better data and ask for better insights, both qualitative and quantitative. The quantitative side, they can often help you collect. The qualitative side, you need to have a process in-house to provide that internally and externally. And you're only going to be able to build that sort of tight feedback loop with your dream customers, with sales, with customer success to get those insights, those quality based insights and data points. If you've done a lot of this in house, if you've got those processes built in house, an agency, in fact, will actually only make that demand a lot higher and make it even worse for you because you now have another party that is demanding the same information from you that you need to do in house.
That's a really good point, Kev. Yeah, that's right. And agencies, they need that qualitative information, like the customer feedback. What are salespeople saying about your content? How did they first discover your brand? When they asking, how did you first hear about us? What are they saying? How are people engaging with your content? Like all that information normally sits with the company itself and not with the agency. And so you got to have really good, solid feedback loops to get that information back to them, because in B2B, they can't just optimize based on the quantitative data alone. Looking at clicks, click through rate, leads, all that kind of stuff, you need to go one level deeper. Who is clicking? And like, where did they start browsing? Are they an ICP fit? You, is there anything else that they need to fill their buying journey? Did they have any questions that they're asking sales or they're asking on your chatbot that maybe indicates that there's objections there that you haven't addressed yet? All this stuff needs to be fed back to the agency. So we really recommend having a process for doing a lot of this work in house first.
I think a clear sign of that, which we've seen ourselves in doing consultancy work and agency side, is when you get to these lead gen based companies, when you're helping them with their paid ads and whatnot, you can have that conversation with them around the CPLs and leads, and you can solve that pretty good these days with if your agency or your expert working on these things are pretty handy, pretty good technically with setting up the ads themselves, the structure and things like that, getting the data in there through your offline sources, they can be pretty good at that. Then generally they will solve that MQL problem. They can drive the level of leads that you need to a decent quality. But at a certain point, there's going to be the biggest drop off is going to be between MQLs and SQLs or customers. And they won't be able to solve past that. Even if you're uploading all your offline data, often you just won't get enough data points to optimize towards. Maybe you don't have enough SQLs, maybe you don't have enough customer data points to feed back into these ad machines to find more of them efficiently. And so then they will be asking you, okay, what are those qualitative insights? And that's when you really will have to start to panic to get those to them, because they might be driving more and more MQLs. They're scaling everything at their end, and everything seems to be looking really good from the agency side, but it won't be translating into your business as the revenue that you hope those leads would bring. And that's the problem when you don't set up these processes in-house, because when they started that activity, the MQLs are already looking in the wrong place. You're going in the wrong direction. And so you have to actually go and you have to do more work to come all the way back and to recenter and rebuild from a much smaller foundation to build back up. So it's much better to do the in-house work first, get the qualitative data in there, make sure that you're starting with a really solid foundation before scaling. If you scale too early, again, something that agencies might be very good at, if you're scaling very quickly in the wrong direction, it's only going to create more work down the track.
That's a great point, Kevin. And look, very often what an agency tries to do first for you is they try to find message market fit, but because they don't have access to your customers, they're not drawing those insights from the business and from the customers themselves. We've been in this position. I've been guilty of doing it. What we do is we go, oh, what are your key messages? Let's take those. Let's take the ones from our competitors. Let's launch some ads, put those in front, and see which one gets the highest click through rate and the most number of leads. And that's our message market fit. Or if they're doing outbound email marketing, they'll do the same thing, but they'll just distribute it via emails. Just target a whole lot of people with outbound emails, see which message resonates the most. But what we're doing, as you said, is like we're basically churning and burning that whole market and churning and burning a whole lot of resources as well. So we're blasting through ad dollars, we're blasting through emails and our reputation just to find this message market fit, when really the answer for that is from within, Kevin. I don't want to get all soft and mushy, but that's where we need to get the answer from, is from within.
Yeah, definitely, George. And I don't think it's mushy at all. It just makes a lot of logical sense. Talk to your best customers. They already found value. They already hit that turning point where they saw value in your product. So just ask them where that point is, what got them there. And that is a much more educated guess and starting point than if you're just spraying the field, as George said, churning through a lot of people, a lot of audience, a lot of potential customers just to get to that message market fit, which is ultimately not what you want, anyways. You want product market fit. You want the revenue to come from people who see value from your product, not knowing your customers or potential customers, or even customers who aren't your potential customers, but knowing what resonates with them. That doesn't really serve you as business.
Let's just go through a few more of the steps, Kev, that we would normally recommend a business take to get this information in house, just to give you an idea as to what you need to do and what an agency might have to do on your behalf if they're going to do a good job of this. The first step, Kev, that we always recommend is people conduct 80/20 analysis on their business. That means looking for which 20% of customers are driving 80% of the output for your business. That might be revenue, it might be profit, whatever it is. These are your best in focus customers. So you've got to identify who those are. And if you're going to do that, that normally requires some collaboration between marketing, sales, and leadership again to understand who are our best customers, what does that segment look like, what are the firmographics, what are the demographics, so we know, hey, this is who we need to now target as our next market. We can now really focus on these people because we've spoken about it endlessly, Kev, but we all have limited time, resources, budget. If we're trying to spray and pray the field way too wide, we can't get deep enough within a market to convince them that they have a problem that we can solve and we're the perfect people to do it. So 80/20 analysis is key, and that's going to be a hard thing for an agency to do externally. Second one, Kev, you already mentioned customer interviews. That's going to be tough. Third is around updating your own positioning and messaging based on that. So we've redefined who we're a best fit for. Now we're going to update our positioning and messaging. That's again a pretty big undertaking, a lot easier if you're in house. Then mapping the buying journey. What does that buying journey look like? Who are the different stakeholders? That kind of information shouldn't be taken from ChatGPT like I know a lot of people are doing. That information should again be going back, analyzing your past deals, speaking to your past customers, and finding out who were the key people involved in this decision making process. What was important to them? When did they come in? What were their own KPIs? How did we help solve those? What were the key pieces of information they need along the way? That's all the information we need in just step one alone, Kevin. And then on to step two, which is all around okay, we have basically a map of who our future customers should be, what we need to say to them. Step two is about how do we repeatably get this information together to answer all those questions along the buying journey. And it's not enough, again, for an agency to do this for you and to outsource it to a freelancer because who wants to read information that's written by a freelancer anymore? They want it done by a subject matter expert. They want it done by someone with real insights. I'm so sick of downloading white papers and resources that are written by people who have clearly never done the thing that they're trying to tell me how to do. And that's exactly how your buyers feel. And so that comes down to you having to start identifying who are our subject matter experts within the business. If we don't have any, are there any externally? Because they're going to be a great source of your content moving forward. So, again, another hard thing for them to do, Kevin.
If you expand that look of externally to your business, why agencies might not be the best call for looking after your demand generation motion as a whole. When you come to collaborating with partners, with people external to your business, if you want to do a collaboration, maybe it's a sponsorship, or maybe it's a sponsorship of you and the organic content that you're putting out there. How are you going to do that with an external agency? There's obviously affiliate managers, affiliate agencies, and things like that out there who can do that for you, whether it's running a referral program and doing affiliate marketing. But a lot of the times, it's a lot more impactful and a lot more helpful if you're running that in house. If you can partner with another business directly and to share your audiences, resources, and expertise together and create a helpful piece of content together, that will feel a lot more genuine. It's a lot easier to organize. Can you just imagine an agency trying to organize you and a potential partner and subject matter experts within both your businesses to sit down for a conversation, that's going to be a lot harder than if you organically have that connection with somebody else in another business that you're looking to partner with. It's a lot quicker to organize. Just on the fact that the agency doesn't have access to your calendar or your subject matter expert's calendar, they can't book that meeting in as quick. And a lot of the momentum comes out of these projects that could ultimately deliver a lot of value for your business with your partners external to your business if you're using and relying on an agency to do a lot of these functions that are inherent in your business. Partnerships, if you think about how much work goes into those, it's crucial to have a lot of that happen in-house, and often an agency will only slow you down in those circumstances.
Kev, let's talk about maybe when an agency does start to become a good fit. I think you and I probably both agree that an agency really makes sense once you have this information in house, and then they're really good at two things. They're good at amplifying that message to that target market. So once you've done that work, you understand who you're targeting, you understand what you need to say to them. Agencies are great to have the technical expertise, the channel level expertise to help you get that message out. And they're fantastic for that. Are there any other situations, Kev, where you feel like they're really, really handy?
I do think they play a lot of value when it comes to organically amplifying the content. So when we talk about content repurposing, when we talk about some creative and graphic expertise, sometimes that talent is hard to source and those ideas are hard to source internally. Whereas agencies have that exposure to other clients, to a myriad of industries. They can see trends that are working across different social media platforms, across different mediums, and different amplification channels, as you said, George, to be able to take that message out most effectively, whether that's creating campaigns in terms of paid campaigns that are structured very well, that utilizes all the latest features and the best features that are most relevant to your particular business on different ad platforms, or it's putting a certain spin on a particular message that you want to put to market in a creative way. And they have the creative resources to put that together for you very quickly and very professionally, because that's what the whole agency is built on. Creative agencies and ad agencies and performance agencies really play those roles very well. So I do see those as areas where agencies can help you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And again, that relates to agencies having their own set of expertise. And kind of a great model is to use agencies to leverage their expertise, maybe even start to use an agency that's willing to train you up internally. And then you start to have an internal resource that does that when you reach a stage of growth where that makes sense. And you can find agencies that will do that kind of stuff, that will work with you as a third party until you reach a stage where you want to take that function in house, and then they train you up on how to do that. I think that's a really great way to operate. It's a really good win. And that way you get to overcome that painful learning time where you would have to do this internally in-house yourself. We know that B2B marketers are incredibly busy, and to learn a whole different set of skills is difficult and a big ask. And so it makes sense to skip the learning time, to skip the pain that comes with that, leverage the external agency, and then take that function back in-house once you reach a scale to do so.
Yeah, definitely, George. And often we see those type of agencies in that training role come in the form of consultants as well. So keep that in mind. Often experts will be a one-man show because they really don't need to be more than that if they're helping you set up a process, guiding you through whether it's specific things like customer research or customer interviews. Obviously, we've had experts on in these different practices. So it's important to keep in mind that there's different offerings out there apart from agencies. But remember, they're all really there to help you make the most of your in-house resources and capabilities to be able to do a lot of these things in-house.
Yeah, Kev, eventually getting this function back in-house to shorten that feedback loop so you can go straight from sales to marketing, from the front line to marketing is essentially where you want to be. Otherwise, things always get lost when there's a middleman and you're handing information over to the agency. That's something that we do in terms of setting up LinkedIn ads for clients that we work with. We do that for them. And then when they're at the stage where they want to take that function in-house, we have a program that trains up their team on how to run and manage LinkedIn ads on their own so they can complete that function too. in terms of all these steps that you should be doing internally to build your own demand generation engine. We, of course, share that with everyone in the B2B Playbook, our 12-week demand generation course, where we show you step by step what you need to do. So if this is something that you need to really start getting going internally, if you have worked with an agency and things haven't worked before, it's very likely because you haven't done this hard work internally yourself. If you need someone to force you to do it, to then hold your hand and answer questions along the way, that's what the B2B Incubator is all about. So make sure you check out the b2bincubator.com or just type in the B2B Incubator and it'll come up on Google.
All right, listeners, key takeaways for this episode. First, agencies aren't always the best port of call, especially when you're starting your demand generation process and you're trying to build up that practice within your business. You need to generally start that process in-house. Things like deeply understanding your customers, whether that's through 80/20 analysis of your existing customers or a combination of that with things like customer interviews. It's important to do a lot of these processes in-house. Secondly, agencies do have their place along with consultants that can train your team in-house in certain parts of that demand generation process. And they're particularly good at helping you amplify your message once you've got it down pat and you know who you're going after.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kev. There you go. Agencies aren't all bad. You just need to do the work in-house to give them what they need. Probably one final piece of advice, Kev, before we sign out. I know we've done the key takeaways, but just look, if you're trying to outsource this to an agency and they're promising you X number of leads for X amount of cost, and they're not inquiring about if you have all this information on your ICP and who you're targeting, it's probably not going to be the right fit for you. They're probably going to churn and burn the market, and it's not going to be worth your time, energy, and resources in doing it. That's all I'll say. Okay. Thank you very much, listeners. Thank you, Kevin. As always, you can find links to everything that we discussed in the show notes. Kevin and I are just so grateful that every Monday, more and more marketers tune in to the B2B Playbook podcast or our YouTube channel. If we could ask one thing, it would be to please pass the show on to someone who you think would get value from it. That's a huge help to us, and we really, really appreciate it. If you're watching us, please comment, share, all those good things. Helps us reach more great B2B marketers like yourself. Thank you so much, listeners, for your time. Thank you, Kevin. Take care and catch you next week.
Thank you, listeners and viewers. Thank you, George. Take care and catch you all next week.